Hey photo crew, let's take a moment to look at two different ways that we can crop our images as we start to work on our photo joiners. So option number one is to use the crop tool here in Photoshop. So if I navigate here to the left hand side, take a look at my different tools, you will see this symbol right here. This is the crop tool. The symbol is the same way the crop tool looks in our Google Slides. And if I click on it, I can then go over here, click and drag, and a bounding box will appear around my Photoshop document. Now, if I'm looking at the composition of this particular photo joiner, there's a little too much empty space here at the top, and there's a little too much empty space here at the bottom. So I'm going to click on this little square. I'm going to click and drag. That looks better. I'm going to go down here, click and drag, and that is how I would like my photo joiner to look. So once I'm happy with this preview, I'm going to go ahead and press Enter on my keyboard, and we will see that it has cut away that extra space. This is looking much better. As a matter of fact, I think I might want to crop it in just a little bit closer. So I'm actually going to bring in the left-hand side just a little bit, maybe, yep, there. Bring up the bottom just a little bit more. Press Enter on my keyboard. Yes, and I am much happier with that. Now, let me go over here to my zoom tool and zoom in a little bit closer so I can see this a little bit better. And that's looking pretty good. But here's one limitation of the crop tool, right? When you select the crop tool here in Photoshop, that cropping, the sort of cutting away of extra space, it applies to the entire Photoshop document. What I cannot do is I can't click on a specific layer. So let's say here on my SpongeBob layer, maybe I wanted to sort of cut out the right side so we couldn't see this little camera here. I can't use the crop tool to do that because I can't use the crop tool just to crop away a particular spot on an individual layer. So instead, if you've already added a photograph here into your Photoshop document, there's some part of it that you would like to get rid of, we can crop it, but we have to use a different technique to achieve that effect. All right, so once again, we're going to use this photograph here as an example. Let's say I don't want to see this little camera here on the right hand side. Let's get to work. First thing I'm going to do is go back here to my zoom tool. Okay, when we see that the plus symbol is present in our little magnifying glass, that means when I click, 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 it's going to bring me closer to my image. And if I want to back away, let's say, oops, I clicked too many times. I'm way too close. I'm seeing too much detail. I'm going to go up here to the top, click on the magnifying glass with the minus symbol, and then I will click, click, click to back away. And remember, the zoom tool does not change the actual size of your document. It is just moving us closer or farther away from what we're working on. But I think this is good. I can easily see sort of what I want to work on. And now I need to make sure that I do have my SpongeBob layer selected, and we're going to go back to that marquee tool that we used earlier in the process when we were copying and pasting. So I'm going to go here to my toolbar, grab that rectangular marquee tool, and I'm going to click and drag and put a rectangle around the area of my photo that I want to get rid of. Now it's okay that my marquee tool is also overlapping onto this image because look, the only layer we have selected is the SpongeBob layer. So the next tool or the next technique that I apply is only going to happen on this layer, and it's only going to happen in this area that I have just selected. Okay, so I have the area selected that I want to get rid of. How do I get rid of it? Two methods. I think the fastest method, once I've made my selection with my marquee tool, is to go up to Edit and Clear. And I have deleted all of those pixels in that specific area on this specific layer. Okay, so if I want to keep working, I'm going to make sure I still have my selection tool. Okay, I'm still here in my rectangular marquee tool. I'm going to hover over this selection I've made, and I need to right click and deselect. That way I can move on to other tools and to other techniques. So let me hop over here to my zoom tool. Let me sort of get farther back. And I like that. Sort of there's more focus here on the little characters and stuffed animals that I have on this shelf. I think that was a good decision. So that's sort of the second way that we're still cropping in the sense that we're cutting away a part of an image we don't want, but because we're wanting to apply that to a specific layer, we can't just use that crop tool. We have to make a selection. In this example, we're using the marquee tool, and then we need to delete the section that we select. Okay, so the method that we use today, which is the fastest one, is edit clear. One more option, okay, because as you will learn as we continue to work in Photoshop, there's often more than one way to accomplish the same task. Let's go back to this image. Let me undo what I have just done. Edit, undo, edit, step back. Okay, let me go back here to the marquee tool, right click, deselect, and we're back here with that original image. So let's say same situation. Okay, I want to get rid of some of the sort of right-hand side of this particular image. Once again, I'm going to make sure that I'm working on the SpongeBob layer. I'm going to go to my marquee tool. Going to select the area I want to get rid of. Okay, now I could use the eraser tool. The eraser tool is not my favorite tool in Photoshop because the eraser tool, just like the edit clear we just did, it's what we call a destructive editing method. There we go. Oops. And when we use a destructive editing method, we are actually deleting and erasing the original pixels in that image. With our next assignment, we're going to start using a technique called layer masking, which is a non-destructive method. So without getting into too much detail, I just want to let you know that when you're sort of cropping these individual layers, make sure you're making an edit that you're going to be happy with, because there is a limit to how far we can go back through our actions and undo this. And this is a method where once you make the selection and clear it or use the eraser, you are deleting those original pixels. And at some point, there is a limit to our ability to be able to bring them back. So without further ado, let me show you the eraser tool, one of my least favorite tools here. But here it is. Okay, you're going to click on the eraser tool and a circle is going to pop up. Okay, right now my eraser tool is really, really big. So if I go ahead and click, I can erase that area that I have selected. Okay, now sometimes, let me go edit, undo. Sometimes you'll open up your eraser tool and that eraser tool will be really, really teeny tiny. So this would take a lot longer for me to have to sit here and erase this section. So when you open up that eraser tool, you are able to change and adjust the size of your eraser. So if you end up with one that's super teeny tiny and you'd like it to be a little bit bigger, you're going to navigate up here to the upper left-hand corner, click on this drop-down menu. You can make the size of your eraser tool bigger, right? That's going to make that go a little bit faster. You can also change the hardness of the edge of your eraser tool. So let me do a couple of things here. Let me zoom in on this area we're going to continue working on. Oh, that's a little too close. There we go. Let me go back to my eraser tool and check this out. If I make the hardness of the edge of my eraser tool 100%, let me make this a little bit smaller. Oops. Hey, behave Photoshop. There we go. If I make my edge 100% hard and I click, that's a super, super sharp circle that I have just cut out. Now, this probably isn't applicable to what we're doing right now, but later on when we're using the brush tool and some other tools where we can adjust the hardness of that edge, I want you to see what a soft edge looks like. So this is an edge with 100% hardness. You see that down here? Let's do just the opposite. Let's make the edge of our eraser super, super soft. So it's the same brush size, or the eraser size in this case, okay? But look at how soft that edge is. So again, for our purposes, we want to completely erase this edge. We do want it to be super sharp and clean, but later on, I do just want everybody to be aware that you're able to make those different adjustments to your eraser, or later on, we have the same adjustments for our brush tool, and that does change the way that tool affects the image that you're working on. But again, for our purposes and to wrap this up, we're going to make our eraser hardness 100%. I'm going to use my keyboard shortcut to make my size a little bit bigger. Let's zoom out to see if we like the way that looks. That looks good to me. We need to get rid of this selection so we can move on to the next tool and to the next step. So I'm going to go back to my marquee tool, hover over this rectangle, right click, deselect, and voila. Let me back up a little bit, zoom out. That looks good to me. So a couple of different options for how we can crop here in Photoshop. If you want to just trim off the edges of your entire document, you will use the crop tool. If you're wanting to get rid of a certain area on one of these images, you need to navigate to that specific layer. You will use the marquee tool to make your selection, and then you can either go to edit clear, or you can use the eraser tool to erase the area that you select. All right, good luck with cropping. Let's move on to the next step.